The implications of what this test might have, certainly it's going to help you make the selection. Should we be recruiting this guy? Should we be offering aid? Is this a scholarship guy versus a preferred walk-on? Those are the types of decisions you can make. It will help inform that decision. But once that decision's made, the reports can also be used to help them onboard. How do you get somebody to assimilate into campus? It will help you as coaches and managers to help train in all different areas. So it's a significant coaching tool. It's a people measuring tool. So you'll know what buttons to press, how to treat guys differently to get the maximum out of them. Certainly, it has implications on the athletic development side. So, kind of a real comprehensive overview of what this has. It's Nobody operates in the predictive space of this, given the science that's in behind it, but it has implications on a number of fronts. This I'm going to give you a quick overview of where do we go from here. The next step would be involving you and your staff in something that I would look to come to your campus and do, but we could do it online in a webinar. It would take about a half hour, 45 minutes to give an overview of the program, what it does. A lot of the information is contained in this, but we would go through it so that we can help the staff understand the science in behind this and what's taking place. Once there, we're going to ask you to go through a team analysis survey, and I've included a link to that in the email, as well as your student athletes performance rating. As noted earlier, we need you to rank your current guys or rate your current guys on a 1 to 10 scale based upon those building blocks. So that would come next. Once there, we would have everyone on your current team take the assessment. We would look to score the ones who emerge as your ideal candidates and your imperfect candidates. So the very best and the very worst in any organization. That's 15 to 20% high end, 15 to 20% low end. Once we score those models, we're going to be able to come up with the qualities that differentiate, the behavioral traits, the thinking styles that differentiate your good from your bad. We'll then create a custom portal for you to manage this from. Once you have the portal, you can extend an invitation to a prospective student athlete to take the assessment. Excuse me. Short of the relationship with the NCAA, which we'll have them do through the assessment center, the student athlete would take the assessment, and they can take it on their phone, on an iPad, online. Their results would go back to your portal. You can decide whether you want to give the student athlete a report, and we should talk about that because there's merits to doing it. There's also valid reasons why you may not want to do it. But the real value is then you get a series of reports that will score the PSA against your model to say this person's an 88% fit, he's a 22% fit, or whatever it happens to be. And it'll give you, if you're using this in advance of bringing somebody on campus for an official visit, it'll have some suggested questions and topics for discussion that you need to surface in the form of an interview guide. It'll give you that comparison, but that's really it. Just kind of going back to that, if you look at this whole process from the time of onboarding to the time where you can get PSAs taking this, we're inside of a week, and it's really contingent upon you and how quick we can get it's going to require about 5 to 6 hours of onboarding, taking these analysis, reviewing things, but spread out over the course of time, we can be up and running in short order. I've included a link to this survey, but this is one of the tools we use in customizing your model. What are the things you value in your program? And that helps us shape the ideal candidate models as well as the imperfect models. We give heavily weighted value to those concurrent studies, or scoring everybody on your team and taking the assessment, differentiating between the good and the bad. I've included a link to that as well. You don't have to take that necessarily at this stage, but it is the next step. This is an example of the report with a much smaller roster size. In this case, roughly 15-20% of your people are going to be high-end performers, and we'll look at them and say, okay, how do they score on the test versus your low-end performers, your imperfect candidates? And what'll happen is you'll get a report after they take the assessment, and everybody will go ahead and take that. We'll score those models, and you'll come up with something like this. This is an actual result of the teams that we're working with, but in their thinking style. These are the range of the good guys and where they scored. The red is the range of the bad guys, or the imperfect candidates, and how they scored. Now, what you'll learn quickly is 9-10 isn't necessarily good, 1-2 isn't necessarily bad. It's all on how they fit into the model. In this case, the model candidates on their verbal skill are 2, 3, and 4. Now, in this case, the two that are shaded red or yellow, the numeric reasoning or deductive reasoning. The other day we talked about the difference between buckets and jugs. Well, the best guys are buckets. Their deductive reasoning, their ability to process information is much better than those imperfect candidates. So I don't know how yours will come out, but that's what we'll see. Who in your eyes and the eyes of your staff are the better performers, that are the fit into your culture, that you would want to replicate in the recruiting process every single time, and the red or the imperfect who you would like to stay away from every single time. And that's what we'll provide you information on. Here's an example of the information on behavioral traits. As you can see, the good guys often look a lot like the bad guys. That's the case with the energy level. Really nothing distinguishing one from the other. But on assertiveness and social ability, these are statistically significant separation between the ideal candidates and the imperfect candidates. And I don't know how yours will shake out, but hopefully you'll get some separation between the good and the bad, so that when you're comparing prospective student athletes, ultimately what you're trying to say is we want more of these and we want less of those. And that can happen with these, and there's a bunch of other criteria that it looks at. In the end, John, what you're going to get is a report. Hopefully you'll get a lot that look like this. It's an overall match of 93%. In this case, it's 4, 5, 6, 7 is the range, and the candidate was a 6. And you can see in every case in here, at least on the thinking style, the candidate matched the range. In the behavioral traits, there's only one instance where they were outside, and it wasn't far outside. So overall, this person's about as high a score match as you can get to the ideal candidate. Conversely, hopefully you don't get a lot of these, which is, hey, here's a match of only 42%. And again, 10 isn't necessarily good, and 1 or 2 isn't necessarily bad. The further somebody gets away, if the range is 4, 5, 6, 7, it's okay to be an 8 or a 3, but you don't want to be at extremes. I'll give you an example here. The range is 6, 7, 8, 9, and they're 4 standard deviations removed from the range. In these cases, this is going to end up being a lot of stress on the individual, and it's going to be a lot of unsatisfactory performance from your perspective. Whenever there's significant separation with these, that suggests red flags. You can tolerate, jumping back to the good match, somebody's just slightly outside, because if somebody's a 7, the test allows for it. They might be a 6 or an 8, but they aren't a 9 or a 5. So when you're well outside, that gives reason to pause. like in this case, objective judgment. 6, 7, 8, 9 is the range. Scores a 1. In this case, run, don't walk, away from this person. So that's it in a nutshell. I will hopefully you'll have time to take a look at this. I appreciate you hanging in there. I tried to do this as quickly but as informatively as possible. But if you have any questions, by all means, give me a call. It's on the email, and then I'll try to reach you before the end of the week. But uh, wanted to make sure we get this in your hands and so that we can define next steps. Thanks. Look forward to catching up with you.